Welcome everybody to today's session, How to Boost Your Domino App Modernization. I am Franz Walder, Product Manager at Panagenda. And with me today is Thilo Volprich, who is CEO of Team Technology.
Good morning to everybody.
We want to tell you a little bit about the journeys that our customers take when they are considering modernizing their Domino applications. And since we are from two companies, as I said, I am with Panagenda, and one of the things that we do is analysis of the nodes environment. I'm going to start this from the perspective of the analytic solution. And then we are going back and forth between Thilo and myself to show you a little bit about the different areas that we help our customers with. The first thing is that our customers are all on a journey. It doesn't really matter what their destination is, whether they are modernizing their environment, whether they are migrating away, whether they are looking to consolidating or trimming down their environment. We help them to find a good path. We help them to make good decisions. Now, important with this is that finding a good path does not mean that we are determining the destination that our customers should be going to. Quite the opposite, really. When we come into the picture, many of our customers have already made their decisions. So it's not for us to, as an analytic solution, we don't want to be somebody who tells you where to go, but we want you to make good decisions. Now, one thing that we see is that many of our customers have this expectation that no matter where their path leads, it's going to be a straight road. And I think everybody kind of expects that there will be some bumps along this road, maybe some bigger issues, some smaller issues. But in the end, everybody thinks that whatever their path is, it will have a start and it will have a goal or an end. Now, the thing is, if you believe that, then you're going to be a very sad puppy, as they say in English. Because what we really see is that the path really more follows this type of route here. It goes up and down and back and forth, and you start out with certain plans or you think you're going to go a certain direction, and then reality gets you and kind of turns you around and changes, maybe not the goal, but changes the plans. But what we think or what we feel and see from our customers is it doesn't matter if you have different destinations. For quite a while, you're going to be on a similar path. You're going to go through certain steps, and if we bring that back to this situation of transforming your application landscape, you're always going to clean up first. You're going to take stock of what you have. You're understanding, you're attributing certain things to others. You create connections. So what Panagenda does with our solution is we try to make this more efficient for our customers. Maybe one of the most important factors really is we try to reduce the risk and the manual effort involved. And at the bottom line, it's always the same. We help to save cost. So if I had to explain what we do in just one picture, it would be what I am showing you right now. When you start out with your project, no matter what it is, you have a huge amount of databases or you have a huge pie in front of you. But As you progress, you have to slice that into smaller and smaller pieces to work off those pieces. And that's one of the big things that we help with, is segregating, segmenting those things that you need to focus on. So in the end, your task is not looking at 6,000 applications you need to find a solution for, but only maybe 450, like in this example. Now, how do we do that? We help you to ask the right questions. And I will admit, the questions alone are not everything, so the answers are pretty useful as well. But even asking the right questions puts you in a certain, I want to say, mindset, or makes you aware of areas that will be important and interesting for you. Because in the end, you will have your own questions. We cannot think of all the questions that you will come up with, so we give you a foundation to ask your own question. And as all of this progresses, as you progress in your project, we will quickly see that the broad questions are not enough. Because no matter if you're modernizing or migrating or just consolidating, at some point you're going to be in a situation where you have to find a path for an individual application. And if we're thinking of modernizing, maybe a path forward for some databases might be using them on Nomad. Maybe a path forward for others might be a great new template that HCL has brought out. But really, at some point, you have to find an individual path forward. And for us, it's hard because we, as the analytics solution, we don't want to, we have to stay neutral. I don't make money by selling you a development product or by selling you Microsoft licenses. I am a neutral. I look at facts, and with those facts, I help you make decisions. But still, our customers want us to help them find a way forward, and we have looked long and hard. And as Panagenda, we have finally discovered something that is exciting and relevant for you and offers a new perspective for your path forward. And we found that with Teamworker, because no matter if you're modernizing or migrating, what they're doing is a really amazing complement, no matter what the situations is. And we have teamed up to provide value together, and that's what we will show you later in the demonstration. And now I will give over to Thilo, who is going to tell us more about Teamworker. Thilo, it's your stage.
Thank you, Franz, for introducing me and giving me the option to talk about our part of this solution. So we are talking about beautifying and boost the Domino apps. This is what Teamworker is doing. And I want to show you the details now. So what is Teamworker? Teamworker is a development solution. It's a nodes application on your Domino server. And with Teamworker, you are able to transform your existing, in most cases, desktop optimized, some old-fashioned HCL nodes applications in a very short time into a true mobile user experience. So as you can see on the right, we have a mobile device, or we have an iPad or any kind of pad, and we have a big screen. And with Teamworker, you are able to transform your existing applications into this new interface that the people really like. So to do this, it's not that hard if you are a Domino developer. But first of all, let us talk about your infrastructure. What things have to be done or not to be done to make this possible? So we thought about what administrators don't like, and then we created the solution. And by asking ourselves, we find out we want to have no changes in your existing applications. They stay as they are. We are just an addition to the applications, and there's no change in the application itself. We have no changes on the servers. We have, so if your configuration is there, you can use it as it is. We have no DLLs or tasks need to be installed on a Domino server. So you can use it as it is. We need just a signed version of Teamworker and your server, and you can start. A signed version, yes, you read it right. If you're in the Notes universe, yeah, it's a Notes database. So it's just a signed version of the Teamworker template on your server. There's one thing we need additionally to your existing infrastructure. We need one folder. It's just for having virus scanning before we put some attachment into any Notes database. With Teamworker, you're open to do that and add attachments to existing Notes applications. And this can be dangerous. That's the reason why we choose that way. What server version do we need? We're going back to Domino server starting from 8.5.3. So very old version. You don't have to have the newest Domino version, but it also works on the current version for sure. And you need a running HTTP task on one server. It's just the server where Teamworker resists. And from there, you can go to all the other servers in your environment, even if they are in other domains and you have trusted servers or something like that, it just works. The data stays safe behind the firewall. So no hassle, no thinking about any problems with the data, because we don't duplicate the data. The data stays in the original application. And for sure, the user rights will be honored based on the Domino directory. There's no change. All the rights are completely respected. And we have done this by big customers, as you can see at the bottom. So on the next slide, you can see, if you ask yourself, when should I use Teamworker? There are so many options out there to modernize existing applications. And we thought about that. And we have found this triangle. So if you have, these are different targets in a modernization process. The one target is use your existing skills. If you are a Notes developer and you want to use existing skills, then this is one of your targets. On the other hand, if you are a JavaScript developer or web developer, if maybe this is not the target for you. Then the second target is no additional license costs. If you want to save money on the modernization path, maybe this is a target of you. And the third one is a great user experience if you have this target. The problem is there are so many targets you want to have, you only can have 2 of them. And as you can see on the next slide, if you want to use your existing skills as a Notes developer and want no additional license costs, you are on the way to use Nomad. This is the right path if you want to have this. On the other hand, if you want to have no additional license costs and you want to have a great user experience and you don't care about existing skills because you have more than just being a Notes developer and you can develop on other things, then the app dev pack may be the right path for you, because you have the option to have a great user experience. You're completely free how to connect to your Domino server. You connect to the Domino server using the app dev pack, but the user experience in the front end can completely create it on your site, and it's completely free and you can use everything you're interested in. And the last path is if you want to use your existing skills, you are a Notes developer by heart, and you are not a web developer, and you don't have the skills for web development, but you also want to have a great user experience, then Teamworker may be the right path for you. And this is what we are talking about today. So Franz and me and Franz colleagues and my colleagues, we ask our customers what they want on the path of modernization. And there are 2 things they can have. On the left side, you see all the diagrams, all the analytic results, and they get a lot of paper, a lot of information. Or are they interested in having something running and available on a device to check out and to find out what is it the right thing we have done in the past? So starting at this point, we thought about how could we accomplish this solution? And for us, it's a 4-step solution. The first step is analyze in deep understanding of your environment. Franz will later show you in detail how this can be realized. For what is good, you get a deep understanding of your environment. The second step is you deploy something. So you deploy ready-to-use applications to see how it works and to see if you made the right decisions based on the analysis you made before. The third step we have is we test. So we test the deployed application we created. And the most important part, we collect user feedback. So this is just the first step. And the deployment is just an early step. And we collect the user feedback to make a better version, to make it better. So on the next slide, we see we optimize the apps based on the real user needs. So we get the feedback, we get the feedback, we get the user needs, and it's easier to collect them if they are able to click something and to see their data in their application. So this is our 4-step solution, but there's a little problem in the timeline, as we can see on the next slide. So the real life problem, in our opinion, is if you start with the modernization part, the first thing is you analyze. After that, you evaluate the results, or any mechanism or algorithm is helping you for evaluation of the results. If you do that, you get the results, and then you can take the next step. The next step is you plan something. You evaluate the solution, you get a budget, and you plan the realization of your target. After that, you develop a new solution. And as you can see in the timeline, all of these steps take some time. So we have developed a solution, waited for it, and then if you're finished, then can I see the next, realization? Yeah, next one, please. You deploy it. So you make it available to public. You make it available to your users, and they can try it out, and they can feel what you have done after evaluation and realizing a new solution. And if you do so, then that's the point, Franz, bitte, where you get user feedback. So as you can see in the timeline, we don't have put any month or years in it, but it can take a long time to get from the very early start, from the start, the analyze, to deploy. And our solution we created together with Panagenda is we reduce the time you need. We want you to get the user feedback as early as possible. Maybe not the perfect realization, maybe not the path you are going to be in the next 10 years. Maybe you are interested in migrating or doing everything, anything else, not staying on Domino. But the most important part is the combination of the analyzed results combined with the user feedback. And with our solution, you save time, as you can see on the screen here. If we switch over to the next slide, then the most important part today is, let's see how it works, because this is just theory we are talking about. So back to Franz. Can you show us something?
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. So back to me. And I'm going to come back to this slide we saw earlier. We help you to ask the right questions. And I'm going to show you how we ask those questions with a little demo. And basically, I'm just going to ask those questions of my solution. Now, first though, which questions are interesting and important? First, in my opinion, is usage. Understanding who uses what, which users are active, which departments are active, which locations are active, when are they active, that is the core of so many things that we are looking at. The second is application design, or the source code in applications. Understanding, first of all, what is in there, but also what is being used or what is being actively worked with by users is going to be hugely important. Now, the third is the content. If you are looking to transform an application, it is going to be very important what is in that application. Is there encrypted stuff in there? Are there a lot of attachments in the database? How old is the content that's in the database? Maybe it hasn't been used for 5 years. And all of this content will help us to answer. Now, let's go ahead and jump right into the demo. Let me switch over here. And here we're looking at IDE applications. And I'm going to just show a little bit of those 3 areas that we are looking at. If we're trying to understand what is being used and what is not being used, we quickly come to this first area, this one picture that I told you about, understanding which of my applications are relevant and which are not. And this is something that that IDE does automatically, that it boils it down to what's really interesting for you and which areas are relevant and used. And then if we come to the usage and to understanding, first of all, how do my applications evolve over time, how much applications are being used, how many of them are used a lot or used not so much. You see here, for example, some of them are very low usage up to very high usage from an application perspective, but also looking at this from a user perspective, understanding which of my users are really active and which of them are maybe not active anymore. When have they been last active? It's a big difference if a user has been recently active or they have been active a long while ago. And all of these areas factor in. Now, the second thing we talked about is complexity. Understanding how complex are databases, understanding what is actually being used within those databases. Let me jump into one of those databases here that we will be looking at. Here I have a demo address book that we will be working with. And there's certain views here, or there's information about, for example, which views are used in an application, which is a really important thing if I modernize an application, because this database might have a lot of views. So here I see I have 19 views in this database, but only a fraction of those views are actually used. And I need to know which ones are those. Or if I go back, so this second area that we need to take a look at is the number of forms that are being used. So not only the views are interesting, but also the forms that are there in my application. And let me jump into content analysis real quick. Oops. And I'm going to my.
There's an A missing.
Oh, there you go. And I'm going to my demo system here. I apologize. Let me show you a little bit about this topic of how to figure out which forms are relevant and interesting, and also how the content can help us. I have a little database here where I did content analysis, and we talked about the relevance and the importance of content earlier. Actually, let me zoom in here a little bit so this is a bit easier to read. When I want to understand what is relevant for me to migrate, I need to view certain factors. So for example, you see here in this database, it has a ton of forms, but only some of them are actually used by documents. As you know, when you start a database or when you start a database design, especially in the many years back, a lot of databases have started from the mail template. And the mail template alone has dozens of forms, but it doesn't mean all of them are used. And thus, if you are migrating, you don't want to redevelop, or in Teamworker's case, you don't want to modernize all of these forms that are not used. You only want to modernize the ones that are used. And this is how iDNA and Teamworker work together. We use our solution to figure out which views and which forms are being used, and then we pass this information on. Now, first, before we do that, though, we need to figure out some basics around the database. And we've talked about the forms, we've talked about the views, but here, for example, we have information when this database has been most active and last active and accessed by how many people. You can see here, this database has mainly been active up until 2018 and then a little bit in 2019, but since then it has not been active anymore. And there's a ton of different areas that you need to take a look at if you're modernizing a database. Because if you have a lot of large attachments, a lot of large videos, maybe there are some areas you might rather go with an application than, you know, bringing it on a mobile interface, for example. It depends. But insights in what kind of attachments are there, how many attachments are there, what type and what size, that's really important. Also, if there are special design objects embedded already in the documents, that's going to be really interesting and important where you're going. If there's encryption and signature in this, in the documents. So armed with all this information, we want to go forward, or we want to move forward and see how quickly we can transform and beautify this with Teamwork here. Now, as I said earlier, I have this demo address book here in iDNA applications. And if I click here on deploy to Teamworker, that's really all I need to make this application accessible in Teamworker. What happens in the background is iDNA applications connects to the Teamworker installation, sets up this application there, deploys it so that it's usable with Teamworker, and all of that happens in the background now. As you can see, there's a little, actually, let me show you that here. There's a little configuration here that's no more than just saying, you know, where is the database, what's it's called, and how can it be accessed. And that's all I need for this deployment. And a couple of seconds later, of course, this is a live demonstration, so this may or may not work. Oh, our database is now ready, and I can open it from here, open it in Teamworker. Here I have my address book. Here I have my different forms and views, and this is exactly where Thilo is now going to take over and show you how you can work with this application in Teamworker and how you can continue to improve it and optimize it and continue this circle that he talked about.
Okay, thank you, Franz. Now I try to share my screen. Let's see if this works. I start. Oh, you have to stop sharing.
I have stopped sharing.
Okay, I start. Now you should see my screen. And
yes.
I start at the point where Franz has stopped. So really impressive. We get all the information out of your environment. We find out which applications are important, so the funnel, and then we found out which parts of an application are important, so which views and which forms. It's not very helpful if you think you're working on a mobile device and you have the option to switch between 30 or 40 forms, views. So it's not important for you. Important for the user is to have the right views they are working with. And this is what the analytics did. And then we have a very, very concentrated application concentrating or focusing on the things which are used. And if we have the demo address book here, same example, we found out there are 3 views important for Teamwork or for mobile or any usage. And you just have access to the data. So for example, we have an address book here. You get the view, you have all the things you are interested in. You can sort as you can in the original application. You can search for something and easily find the solution you are interested in. It not only works on flat views. If you have categorized views, we have categorized and you see the categories here and the subcategories, and only the data you are interested in are loaded. So we don't load everything, we just load the things which are needed. This is the reason why this one is really fast if you see the screen and if you see the performance of the overall performance. And if you jump into one data, one document, if we are talking about notes, then you see even the form is transferred to Teamworker, and we can work with this form. We can even edit this form. And if there is some field formula, for example, for selecting a country, then you get a selector here as you did in notes before. In notes, you have it the way you have a dialogue and something. But in modern web development, you don't want to have dialogues or something like that. You work in line. So if you think about a mobile phone, you just type in here and you find Spain or you find the Russian Federation. So it's very easy to work with. And I think the people like the way it is displayed, more modern, more easy. And this is your Domino data. And these are the data which resist in the original application and you can work with, and you can work on both sides at the same time, so it isn't a problem. And not only this, it's available for the big screen, and you also are able to work on a small screen. So if you think about a mobile device, you have a little screen. So it makes no sense to have a table in here or a view in here. So we transform the views to a more card-like view or display, and you see all the data and you can work with and you can search for, and you have the option to easily integrate any action. You can open it, you see the attachment if there are any, you see rich text or whatever, you see embedded views as we have here. So this is done automatically in the back end. And if you remember the screen I showed before, the biggest thing you get is you get time, because now you can give these applications to your users and ask for feedback because they can work with their data. Okay, let's say, I like the way, okay, now we have found out which views and forms are important, but I want to rename it to make it easier for the users because we have the design names here. So it's very easy. You jump to Teamworker, as said before. It's just a notes database. So this is the application automatically created by the API and the connection from panagenda to this API. And if you jump in, you can just rename everything. So this is easy view by alphabet. Then we have a flat view, for example, that's this one. We call it addresses flat. And we have another view, the third one. We want to call it regional addresses. You can easily change everything. And it's all live. So if we hit refresh on the browser, we see the addresses flat, the easy view by alphabet, and the regional addresses. And now you can let the users in and they understand what their options are here and how they can work with. So they can easily jump into, work with their data, work on a mobile phone, see how it works. And if you want to invest a little more, we talked about minutes or hours, you can change the form. So we have every element of the form, every text, every label, every field. You can say, oh, there's a parent unique ID displayed at the top. I don't want to show it, so I show in read mode, set it to no. Then this is no longer showed. We have a summary field we don't want to show. I disable it. And I disable a third field, the database name, because the people know which database we are in. And even if you want to have some comfort features like saying, okay, I have an office phone number. I want to say it's a phone number. You just click, it's a phone number. Same on email. This is an email. And you say, this is a special thing. This is an email address. And so I invested another minute. And if we hit refresh or jump into an application, into a document, you see now the phone number is clickable and the email is clickable and you can work with. For sure, there's a lot of things you can do, you can change. You have the option to use Lotus script to add, to change the data on runtime. You have the chance to use your existing script libraries to add actions. You have all the events in Lotus script and they just work in the browser. You have the option to include any JavaScript front-end libraries to maybe connect to Google Maps or whatever. So you have the chance to modify this application. We just start with an easy to work with application. And then in the next development sprints, you can add more and more functionality. And by doing so, even if you are not interested in staying on Domino, but I hope you do, but even if you want to go away, by doing it that way, you will have the user requirements. And that's very helpful because you know what they are interested in before you completely develop the solution. And this is what we have done together. Thanks to Franz and his colleagues. It was a ride and it was a joy to work together. And I hope you enjoyed what we have told you today. And now it's on you. I hope you have questions. If you have questions, now it's the right time. Please use the chat or use the Telegram channel to ask any question.
Thilo, Franz, приветствую вас.
Thilo, Franz, I would like to welcome you. Hi.
Благодарю вас за это выступление. Мне кажется, все было прекрасно.
Thank you so much for your talk. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
И сейчас я вижу, что у нас нет вопросов от нашей аудитории.
Unfortunately, we still have no questions from our audience.
Но я уверена, что они очень благодарны вам за эти практические советы.
But I am absolutely sure that they are super thankful for this rule of thumbs and for this advice.
Мы на этом заканчиваем, но просим вас присоединиться к следующей сессии Ивана Кузьменкова и Дарьи Нестеровой. Не пропустите.
So let us finish this session, but Thilo, Franz, I would like to invite you to join our next session of Ivan Kuzminkov and Daria Nesterova.